So following Dave Allen's win on the weekend over Nick Webb, an undefeated British heavyweight prospect, I asked you guys the question, who would you like to see Dave Allen fight next? Because he does have somewhat of a cult following in British boxing. And I'm not surprised by the name that you guys chose overwhelmingly as the favorite to fight Dave Allen, the one who you'd like to see him fight next the most. I'm not surprised that it's David Price because I too would like to see Dave Allen versus David Price next. Yeah, not next month. You know, give Dave Allen some time to recover from the punches he took from Yoka and from Webb. Give him some time to rest, maybe even early next year or at the back end of this year. Dave Allen versus David Price. I think it's that time for that fight right now. I think it's that time. I'd like to see it. Some people have even talked about Chisora against Price, and maybe, but I think off the back of the Takam win, Chisora will be looking for bigger and better things than David Price. No disrespect to David Price. Anyway, perhaps you could have David Price versus Takam. You know, maybe that would be a way for David Price to go. Maybe that would be a fight he'd be more interested in rather than fighting a Dave Allen. He might feel like he doesn't gain anything from fighting Allen, but fighting Takam, maybe he feels like he would gain something from that. Takam is certainly more highly regarded on the world stage and would definitely have a better world ranking than Dave Allen. But be that as it may, the fans have spoken and they want to see Dave Allen fight David Price. The other guys on the list, Martin Bakole, only 5% voted for him. Nathan Gorman, 14%. Daniel Dubois, 20%. Joe Joyce, 17%. So, overwhelmingly, it's David Price that you guys want to see Dave Allen fight next. But if it's not David Price, Daniel Dubois is your second choice for you guys out there. Right? And there's not really much in it between Dubois, Joyce, and Gorman. But very few people voted for Bakole. I just think Price versus Allen makes sense at this stage because it will show us if Dave Allen has anything above what he's already produced, because he'd need to be better than he's been so far to be able to defeat David Price. He'd need to be better than he was against Nick Webb, a lot better, because Nick Webb is better than David Price. All right, even though David Price has been taken out a bunch of times, David Price has got better skills than Nick Webb. He's actually more proven than Nick Webb. David Price hasn't beaten anybody particularly great, but he's beaten better guys than Nick Webb's beaten. So, yeah, I think it's the right time for the fight. Or at least it's the right time for Dave Allen to have that fight. It might not be the right time for Price, but I think it's the right time for Allen. And it's a fun fight. It's a fight which I would like to see. You see, boxing don't always have to be about world title fights and all this kind of stuff. You can find fun and interesting fights at the lower levels in boxing. From the amateur level all the way up through, you know, elite amateurs, international amateurs, in the professional game from prospect level all the way through area and British title level. There are always going to be decent fights to be had at every level. Now, it doesn't mean I sit around watching area title fights and domestic fights all the time and I love it all. Not at all. Hell no. There's a hell of a lot of uninteresting and unexciting fights and unexciting matchups and unexciting fighters at domestic and area level. But when it comes to Dave Allen and David Price, they're the exception. They are two guys who offer a lot of thrills and spills. Dave Allen's story is just interesting to me. Whenever he fights, I'm compelled to watch for some reason. And you know how I feel about David Price. I mean, most of you must feel the same. David Price is car crash television at its best. No disrespect. But something spectacular always happens when David Price is put in a tough competitive fight. So, yeah, I agree with the fans on this one. I also want to see Allen versus Price. But whether you agree or disagree, let me know how you feel in the comment section below. And in fact, let me read some of the comments here before I close out this video. If this is going to open. All right, J97 says, I want him to chin Price. I like Price, but it's funny watching him. Funny watching him hit the deck. Oh, my days. God forgive me. Devon Sinclair says Allen should fight someone like Sexton. There's no need to rush him in there with the likes of a Price. Yes, he could win, but what if he don't? He could get seriously hurt by some of these guys, and how many times can he truly come back from defeats? He needs to develop and gain his confidence by fighting low-level fighters before he steps up again. He is not going to land it over and right every time. Very sensible comment from Devon Sinclair. Yep, I can't argue with the comment, even though I'm talking about how fun the fight would be. I can't argue with the comment. If Dave Allen is looking to develop himself as a fighter, I can't argue with your comment, bro. Okay, Andrew Rhodes says Nathan Gorman, the rest would smash him to bits. Wouldn't Nathan Gorman smash him to bits too? Andrew Harlan says David Price. He'd like to see Allen fight Price. I think the public would lap up Allen Price, and it would be a good step, next step for both. I would slightly favor Price, but his glass jaw is always a leveler. Billy Kane says David Price. I think Sam Sexton or Gary Cornish first, though. All right, another sensible comment. Obi Cat says David Price. Styles make fights. They match up well. Joe Mansfield says David Price. Most winnable and profitable fight. Kieran McDonald. Shout out to Kieran. Long time, no talk. Kieran says, I don't want to see Price or Joyce batter him. Dubois and Gorman are on a similar level to Allen. All right, we'll see. We'll see. Peter Montgomery says Martin Bacoli. Says I just put any name so I could comment. I don't want to see Allen fight anyone until he's talked at length with a professional about where his head is at. This sport can kill you. If you want to make that choice to participate, then I support you. Well, then I support that. But you've got to be capable of making that rational decision. Signs of a boxing Paul Gascoigne, but you're not kicking a ball here. Okay. Another one here for David Price from Lewis Grindle. Brethren for Life says David Price. Price is probably the least name on the list and a fighter that also falls short at elite level. This person says Joe Joyce for a weird reason. Niall Daniel says David Price. Two top fellas. Hope they leave with all their senses. Best of luck to both. Jono says David Price. Okay, Big Daddy Max says Joe Joyce. Natural step up for Allen after beating Webb. George Rodriguez. Price. Man, everybody's saying Price. No disrespect, but I'm going to skip the people who are saying Price because we know there are so many people saying Price at the moment. I can't read out all of them. There's a few here saying Gorman. A few saying Bacoli. Dave versus Dave on Dave, indeed. This guy says he gets spanked against all of the above. Maybe he would. All right, Gorman. All right, so yeah, anyway, David Price is who you guys want Dave Allen to fight next, with a few Joe Joyces and Daniel Dubois and Nathan Gormans mixed in. Couple for Bacoli. Anyway, if you haven't voted, then let me know how you feel in the comment section below. It's Satman, I'm out.